going to show you how to set up your Allen and Heath, set up your mics, where to put your speakers, how to run your aux outs, everything you need to know about how to run your corporate conference. We have the Allen and Heath SQ5 mixer, and right underneath that we have 2 quad Axient receivers, and then we're going to do 6 lavs and 2 handhelds. That's pretty standard for a corporate conference. 8 mics total, 6 lavs, 2 handhelds. You can mix and match them however you need. Then out of the Axients, we have 2 paddles. These are the antennas we're using. We are in New York City, so interference is a big deal over here. So we want to make sure that our mics aren't going to cut out. We're going to use nice big antennas, spread them out, so we're not going to have any dropouts. So up at the front of the room, we put a stage box. This way we can plug in any inputs we need over by the talent, but really we have our outputs for our speakers. So we are running the RCF ART 912s. We have 4 of them in the space, 2 of them up at the front and 2 as delays or satellite speakers. This way we can spread out the sound in a space like this. It is really nice, lots of hardwood floors, glass windows. So thank you from David from Zar Property Group for letting us use this space. However, it's going to be a challenge to ring out, and that's going to be part of the fun of this video, so let's get to it. So this cable right here is called an EtherCon cable. It's basically an Ethernet cable with the barrel connector on the end. That makes it EtherCon. This one is shielded. It's from Sound Tools. It's a great cable. It's going all the way around the room into that stage box. So all we need to do to connect all the speakers is plug this one cable into our S-Link port, and now that stage box is connected, as well as all of our speakers and inputs up at the front of the room. What you might notice here is we don't have any XLR inputs plugged into the back of the board. That's because our mics are coming over Dante. So this I/O card right here is bringing our 8 channels of wireless mics into the board so we can have all of these free. That way we don't need another stage box just to plug in a bunch of devices. Now that everything's wired, we can actually start playing with the mixer itself. So first thing I always do with the mixer that is not mine, I'm not running around with all the time, I reset it back to its factory settings. So I'm going to go over to Setup, I'm going to go to Mixer Config, and I'm going to go to Roll. And then I'm going to click on Standard, because we're not running in-ear monitors for a band, so I'm going to go to Standard, I'm going to hit Reset. So this is just reset the entire board. All of our mixes are standardized, everything is pulled down. Board, we don't have to worry about any settings or things going to mess us up later. So now that I have this, I want to get sound coming out of my speakers. So I need to set up S-Link. That's going to be under I/O. We can see our S-Link is plugged in. I'm going to go to S-Link, and I'm going to route this what I want it. So I want my speakers to be on my auxes because I'm normally doing a live stream or some sort of record out. I want my speakers on my auxes so my live stream, my main mix, can be all the way up at unity, and then I can bring down my speakers because they might be too loud in the room. But I don't want to have to bring down my live stream as well. So that's why I'm putting my live stream on my main mix and my speakers on my auxes. We could easily run stereo. For right now, we're pretty much doing all mics. There's no reason to, so we're going to keep in mono. So I'm going to route my aux 1 to my first 2 ports here. And so now outputs 1 and 2 on my stage box are now receiving aux 1. I want my outputs 3 and 4 on my stage box to receive aux 2. And that's it. That stage box is now configured for all of my outputs. Now let's go ahead and set up our auxes or our mixes for those speakers. I'm going to go ahead to routing, and I'm going to select my very first channel here. And I want to make sure my aux 1 and 2 are on post fader. So whatever I do on the main page, it's also affecting my speakers. So I'm going to set aux 1 and aux 2 to post fader. I'm going to do that for all channels that I'm actually using. If there is a case where you want something coming out of the speakers and not going to the live stream, maybe like background music, you might want to keep these on pre-fader. But for us, our live stream and what's happening in the room are going to be the exact same. So I'm just going to set all of my first 16 channels to post fader for my auxes. Next, let's set the volume faders for those mixes. So basically, mix 1 and 2 are going to be the same. I want all of my faders at unity, full pass-through. Whatever I do on my main page, I want to happen on my auxes as well. Now, if I have certain mics or speakers that are louder, I have 2 options to turn them down. On the page, I could turn down that specific microphone, and that just changes that speaker. Or I could turn down the speaker as a whole, so all of my faders are getting turned down. This is probably what I'm going to do. I'll have my speakers probably around halfway in the room because these speakers are nice and loud. We could go with smaller speakers if we needed to, but we really like the way the RCF sound, and we don't just have an infinite number of speakers to pick from. 2 ways to test sound just to make sure we're getting signal to all of our speakers. We could use a microphone and talk into it, or we can use some music. I like using music. It also gives me a baseline to make sure everything can be even and I don't have to be constantly talking on the mic in order to get it to work. So I'm going to use my laptop here. I have an aux cable. This is a 3.5 headphone jack adapter to XLR. And what's nice is it has a volume knob. If I am getting any sort of buzz because I have a ground problem, then I could use my ground lift right here to compensate for it. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this guy in. And because I know I have 8 microphones, I'm going to go ahead and plug the music into channel 9. So I'm going to go around here, and I'm just going to plug this guy right into channel 9 on the back. So my laptop's plugged into channel 9. I'm going to go ahead and start playing some music out of it. Make sure the volume is up. So I should be seeing signal, which I am on channel 9. So now I can go ahead and select channel 9, go to processing. Right? And if I click on this EQ, this PEQ down here, I should be able to see levels. So this is the music coming up. If I start to turn this up, I should hear it come out of the speakers. Which I do, which is great. So I don't need to boost this as loud. I'm going to be turning the gain down up here. So that is a more line level signal. So I have sound coming out of the speakers. Normally what I do is I turn this up and I walk around the room, make sure sound's coming evenly out of all my speakers. Constantly checking the settings, making sure they're all at 12 o'clock. Now that we confirm that all the speakers are working and our mixer is outputting, we're getting connection, next step is to actually start with the mics. So I always like to start with a handheld. The handheld is the easiest to ring out. We need to make sure the handheld is getting into our system here. There's a couple things we need to do. We need to sync the handheld to the receiver to make sure the frequency is all good, and we need to get the Dante coming from the receivers into the audio board. First thing we're going to do is make sure we're getting signal from the handheld into the receiver by scanning for frequencies and setting the right frequency for this mic. So I have 2 options to scan for frequencies. I can scan on the front of the unit, or I can use wireless Workbench. Currently, I have a router. This is networked to both the mixer and the microphone receivers. So wirelessly, I can control both of them from my laptop. I'm going to pull up wireless Workbench. As soon as I launch wireless Workbench, I see that I already have interference on channels. I don't care about that right now because I haven't actually scanned for any frequencies. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go over to my frequency coordination, and I'm going to go ahead and select both receivers here. I'm going to enter my PIN. So now that I've selected the 2 receivers on the side, I can go ahead and say scan with 2 sources. Immediately, wireless Workbench is using the antennas to scan all available frequencies in the range of these receivers. So it's doing all the scanning for me. This is probably going to take a solid minute or 2 to look for everything, and then it's going to suggest however many frequencies I need in order for these mics to connect without any interference in New York City. Now that the scan is complete, I can assign open frequencies to the receivers. So I'm going to go down here to select frequencies from inventory. I'm going to say all frequencies from inventory. And right there, it gave me 8 different frequencies that line up with my receivers. And now I have to do is tell it to push those frequencies to the receivers. If I want to, I can also analyze them just to make sure everything's good. Looks like 2 of them are incompatible. So I'm going to go ahead and select those 2. And I'll go ahead and calculate new frequencies for them. And now I have good frequencies ready to go. So now I'm going to go ahead and send these frequencies over to the receivers. I can go ahead and make sure and analyze them, make sure everything's in green, I'm all good. Go ahead and calculate. Calculate is going to find new frequencies for these receivers. If I didn't like them, if I was getting interference, I could just hit calculate. It's going to find new frequencies for me. So then when I say, okay, I like these ones, I'm going to go hit assign and deploy. and I want to deploy all zones. And now all of these frequencies are showing up in my receivers. My last step is to then sync the handheld to the receiver. So that means these guys now have the new frequencies, so I'm going to sync this up. I'm going to sync the handheld up on channel 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to do my lavs on my first 6. So I can see I'm getting a little bit of interference right there. I'm not really worried about it because these mics have encryption. They're going to be a much stronger signal. But if I wanted to, I could recalculate. Once I turn this mic on, it's not going to work. It's not going to connect. I can go ahead to the front of this unit and click sync. It's saying I just need to hold it in front of this IR sensor, hold it up, and now I have sync successful, and now my mic is coming into channel 4. So it is that easy to connect the mics to the receivers once all the frequencies are set. Now we need to get the handheld coming into the Allen & Heath. So that is back to the I/O ports, and we need to go over to Dante. So this is our I/O port over here. We're actually talking about inputs, I/O ports, and now I need to route I/O ports 1 through 8 into inputs 1 through 8. So that is a direct patch right here. And that says that I want my first 8 channels on this board coming from my Dante card. It's that easy. So now I can see that I have signal showing up here, and this is the signal of my voice. So everything is now patched and routed correctly. Last thing I need to do is start ringing out the mics. Let's go ahead and ring out this mic. The handheld's going to be easier. I don't actually expect a lot of feedback. What I normally do in this case, I can hear it coming out of the room. I want to go ahead and turn up my gain much higher than I'm really going to need it. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my gain up. It's probably going to be set at somewhere around 0 to 5 dB. I'm going to go ahead and pump it all the way up to 20 dB. I do this because I want to create feedback. I want to find it now and then take it away so it doesn't hurt me later during the gig. So I'm going to go ahead and create some feedback. This mic is now super sensitive. As I turn this up, I expect to get feedback. You're going to hear it. It's really obvious. That is feedback. So I can tell where that feedback occurred because on my graphical EQ, I can actually see where it spikes. So now that I know where the feedback is coming from, I can go ahead and find that frequency and just pull that one down. Here's how I do that. Go ahead and click the high frequency, find it. So I've just pulled down that one frequency that was feeding back, and I now expect to get more feedback, push the volume higher, but get it somewhere else because it shouldn't happen there again unless it's that strong. I need to pull it down even more. So I'm just going to repeat these steps over and over until I eliminate as much feedback as I possibly can. Okay, so I have 4 points on my actual mic, and if I want to, I actually have a 5th point where I could pull down the high pass filter. That guy is up here, and that basically just kills out all the low frequencies of this mic, and I can pull that, make it higher or lower. I don't love to pull out all of my low frequencies, especially if you have someone with a deeper voice. They might need those in order to sound natural, in order to actually sound like that. But pulling out a couple is really not going to hurt anything. So this is the ring out for my mic. I can go ahead and turn my preamp down back where I would actually have it, maybe around 0 to 5. And if I turn up my mic, I don't expect any feedback. If I feel like it should be louder than this at unity, I can turn my gain maybe up to 5. And now I can go walk around the room and I shouldn't get any feedback with this mic, even right in front of the speaker. So I'm going to go ahead and walk over to this speaker over here. This is normally a Q&A mic, and I don't expect to get any feedback right in front of the speaker. Nothing. So this is what we want out of a handheld. I didn't expect for this handheld to be very difficult, and it wasn't. Even in a space like this with a lot of reflective surfaces, a little bit of EQing can go a long way. With this mic now rung out, I have to ring out the other handheld, and I could do the exact same process, pull it up and pull down every frequency, but because I know these mics are the exact same, the speakers are the same, the outputs I want are the same, I can actually just copy and paste all of the work I've done on this mic for the other one. I do want to add a couple things in real quick, one of them being a gate. So I'm going to go ahead and add a gate in here. All the gate does is create a threshold. So the volume, whoever's talking in the mic, has to be a certain level before it's going to amplify their voice. If they whisper, if they're just fumbling around with the mic, it's not going to amplify it. So that's what a gate does. My gate is going to have a very short attack, maybe around 100 milliseconds. And then I put a threshold where I could talk at a low volume and it will still come through. If I make it too high, I could be talking to the mic and it's not going to come through at all. So you want to make sure your gate is low enough for someone whispering, someone talking very softly to get through, but when they stop talking, nothing should come through. So that threshold is good to go. And I also want to put a compressor. If someone's really loud, I don't want them to peak on the channel. So that's where I'm going to bring a compressor in as well. And the compressor is basically just a ceiling so you can't get so loud that you're going to hit into the reds and start peaking everywhere. It's just a nice safety to have. Now let's go ahead and copy and paste the channel. You can see here channel 7 has nothing done to it. Channel 8 has a lot done to it. I'm going to go hit copy. And I'm going to hit the channel I want, which is 8. And we can see at the top, it says copied processing input 8. So now that it's copied into the system, I'm going to go ahead and hit paste, and I want to tell it to paste to 7. And now 7 has all of the exact same settings that 8 does. So I expect to be able to lift up this mic, and everything should be good to go. I'm going to pull up the volume, check, 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 1, 2, and it is the same settings as the other mic I just rung out. These two are good to go. So now we're on to the lavs, and I could ring out the lavs all the way back here, but this isn't realistic. This is not where the lavs are actually going to be. They're actually going to be up at the front of the room. So what I'm going to do is take the iPad that can control this mixer here and walk all the way to the front of the room and ring out this mic in front of the speakers. So now I'm right in front of the speakers. This is the worst case scenario for a lavalier mic. We usually want them behind the speaker. But if I can ring it out here and make it sound good, it's definitely going to sound good when they're standing in the middle and they're not right in front of something that's going to cause a lot of feedback. So let's get to it. I don't have a graphical RTA on here, but I do have one on my phone. There's just a little app, Octave RTA, so I'm using that as a visual representation of what's happening on the frequencies, and then I can control the mixer from the iPad. So if I start turning this up and getting some feedback, I'm going to go ahead and turn my preamp up as well. So I'm going ahead and turning my gain all the way up to, let's say, 14, much higher than I'll actually need it. Maybe I'll go all the way up to 20. The goal is to get feedback. So as I turn this up a little bit, check, 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 1, 2. Already I'm starting to get some feedback. If I turn this up, it says 710. That's where it's happening. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this guy all the way over to about 710, tighten him up. Pull that down, and let's go again. About 8,000. Keep going. 450. Go ahead and put my high pass filter on. Get some low frequencies in there. And 11.2. Check, check. Hey, hey. 5600. Now, if I'm still getting feedback and I've maxed out everything I can do on the channel, I could go to the output. The downside of starting to ring out your output for a particular mic is you are affecting everything that's coming through that output. So if I'm playing music, if we're having someone on a Zoom call come in and talk, I'm pulling down those frequencies from them as well. So you don't want to start with that. You honestly don't want to do that at all. But if you had to, if you're still getting feedback, if you're only using these mics, that's a perfectly viable thing to do. So if I'm still getting feedback, which I am, which is not surprising, I'm going to go ahead to the actual output and start ringing it out there. To do that, I'm going to go over to aux 1. I'm going to pull down the master. I'm going to pull up this mic all the way. And I'm going to start pulling up the aux 1, and I can ring out the PEQ and the GEQ for the aux 1. Check, check. Hey, hey, hey. 12.5. Right there at 10, or 1K. Hey, hey, hey. 315. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, hey, check, check, 1, 2. So I brought down some frequencies, and I can even go over to the GEQ section and start pulling them down there. But I pulled down so far 8 different frequencies causing me feedback. And you can keep going on and on with this. You'll never actually eliminate every single possible piece of feedback, especially with the lavalier mic. But I'm going to go ahead and pull my gain back down to something that it's probably pretty reasonable and see how my ring out is doing. So if I pull it back down to, let's say, +1 or +5 dB, go ahead and put my auxes back to where they should be. Check, check, 1, 2, hey, hey, mic check, 1, 2, hey, hey. Now, I'm able to hear right in front, I have a lav in front of the speaker with no feedback, and it's coming out. I probably want a little bit louder, so I'm going to actually take the trim up. And again, this is not ideal. I am with a lav directly in front of the speaker. It sounds a little weird. If I move away from the speaker and talk in the front of the room, this sounds a lot more natural. Now, I feel a lot of low end happening in this mic, so I'm going to go ahead and adjust just for that. Hey, hey, 1, 2, 2, 2, check, check. Hey, hey, mic check, 1, 2, 2, 2, okay. Hey, hey, mic check. I'm still hearing just a little bit now that I'm here in the middle. They're bouncing off different walls, reflecting off different surfaces a little bit differently than standing right in front of the speaker, so I'm going to adjust for that. Hey, hey, check, check, 1, 2. Again, I'll go ahead and push it a little bit. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, hey. Happening in the low frequencies around 125. Hey, 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 hey. Now around 180, 280. Hey, hey, mic check, 1, 2, 2, 2, okay. Hey, hey. Let's go again. Hey, hey. Hey, hey, mic check, 1, 2, 2, 2. Hey, hey, mic check, 1, 2. Check, check, all right. So last thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a compressor and a gate on the mic. That's going to clean up anything happening on the end. When I stop talking, we basically want the volume to come down automatically and not just renaissance in there. I know. Okay, so let's go ahead and put a gate on this particular mic. I'm going to want the attack to be somewhere around 100 milliseconds. Push my threshold a little bit higher. Check, check. Hey, hey. Check, mic check, 1, 2. Hey, hey, mic check, 1, 2. Okay. Hey, 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 mic check. And then I'm also going to put the compressor on as well. And this is how I have my mic. So now, if I'm standing up here, if I'm standing or sitting back here behind the table, everyone should be able to hear me. I don't need to turn these speakers up this loud. This is filling the room with the 2. Remember, we also have the aux speakers. So if I go to my aux and make sure that guy is up as well, I can go ahead, check, 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 1, 2, 2, 2, mic check, hey, hey, mic check, 1, 2, 2, 2. So now I don't need the speakers as loud. I can make sure I have my delay set. That speaker's about 35 feet in front. I'm gonna do about a millisecond per foot. So I'm gonna go to aux 2, set my delay, about, I'll do a little bit less, about 20 milliseconds. Hey, hey, check, check, 1, 2, 2, 2. That should clean up some of the echo that is happening in here. And I'm good to go. So this is a mic that has been rung out. I'm not getting any feedback in the room. I could have multiple mics up here. I can copy and paste these to other channels, and I'd be good to go. All using my Octave RTA, using the iPad to ring out the mic up here in front of the room. And if you had 2 people, you could have someone up here talking and someone else back on the mixer actually ringing out the room and doing all of the adjustments back there. This is one way to do it. Let's get on to our other mics. Okay, so now we have 2 more mics here that we're gonna set up. We're gonna set up a more standard Podium mic with the nice gooseneck and an on-off button, as well as just an SM58 on a stand. So I'm going to show you the difference in what these sound like and why you might probably want to use the gooseneck if you have it, but you can get away by using an SM58 on a stand as well. So first thing we got to do is plug them into the stage box, which we've done, and route them to the correct inputs. We're already using inputs 1 through 9 on our mixers, so let's just go with the next one, 10 and 11. So we're going to put this gooseneck on channel 10. So I'm going to go to I/O patch, inputs, and make sure we are on the S-Link. So now I'm going to map input 1 on my stage box to input 10 in my mixer. Yes, I want to patch the input S-Link 1 to input 10. Yes. We're going to do the same thing for port number 2 on the stage box going into input 11. So port number 2 going to 11, and that's it. So now that's routed in my mixer. If I go over here and I scroll over to number 10, the only thing I need for this guy is phantom power, 48 volts. If I hold this down, it's going to start pushing 48 volts through that port, and now this mic is showing up and I actually am getting signal. So with this mic right here, it probably won't be that close. I don't need to go hand this over to the speaker. I could pull the speakers in, point them inwards, but I'm going to ring this out just in the space. So the preamp is not bad. I'm not peaking at all. I'm actually going to turn the gain up a little bit. Hey, 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 mic check. Check, 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 1, 2, 2, 2. Gonna keep going up, nice and high. Now I'm starting to hit into those yellows and those reds. That's where I want to ring it out. Check, 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 1, 2, 2, 2. Hey, hey, mic check, check, check. Now I'm starting to get that feedback. Again, using my PEQ here, gonna keep pulling up, check, 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 1, 2, 2. Right there at 112. Hey, 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 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. 280. Hey, 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 mic check, 1, 2. $630. Hey, 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 1, 2, 2, 2. A lot happening in the low end. I'm going to turn on my high pass filter. Hey, 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 mic check. Hey, hey. Even still more, around 90. I'm going to pull my high pass filter up. Hey, hey, hey. Move that guy over, hit 710. Make that real tight. Hey, 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 mic check, check. Just a lot of low end. Hey, 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 1, 2. And I'm going to go ahead and turn my preamp back down, something more reasonable. Let's see here, 24, 25, check, check, 1, 2, hey, hey. And now we've rung this out. Now, this mic's going to be a little more sensitive. The air that comes out when you do your P's and things like that, it's going to affect this. So we want to do two things. I'm going to do a gate and a compressor. Turn on my gate here, set my threshold, check, check. Now, I want my attack to be a little bit longer for this. That is going to happen right at the beginning. So I'm actually going to set my gate to be a little bit longer. I'm going 200 milliseconds. Set my threshold still low enough that I don't have to talk really loud to talk into this mic. So now we're hitting on the end of that, which is okay. This is where my compressor is going to come into play. Set my compressor. I want it to hit early, so I want that attack to be as early as possible. We're going to see how that works for us. So this mic does not need to be right up on me. I don't need to talk into it like this. This one can be farther away and it's still going to pick me up. If my gate is set too high, I can lower my threshold. So it needs less sound in order to push through that gate. So the mic should be about this far away, and I am amplifying to the entire room, especially in the back of the room. And again, because I'm on two separate auxes, I could turn up the speakers in the back a little bit louder than the ones in the front to compensate for any sort of feedback. But this mic is done, it's rung out, it's good to go. Let's move on to our handheld and see the difference at the same spacing away. So I'm going to go ahead and mute this one and start working on this guy here. So this guy here already, I need to turn up a lot louder. I need to turn up the gain much, much higher just to be getting my vocals. I've literally turned it up all the way and I'm barely tapping into the yellows. I'm barely getting close to unity. So that means I'm going to have to turn this mic up a lot, which means it's going to cause a lot of feedback, most likely, right there off the bat. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on a high-pass filter because those were all in the low end. Check, check, check. Still happening over around 90. I can pull that a little bit higher. Hey, hey, hey. Check. 630. Over there at 630. Check, check, check. 1, 2, 2. 1,800 and 5,000. So 1,800. 5K. Hey, hey, hey. Check. Check. 630 and 280. So I'll take that one, spread that a little bit more. And 280. And that's what we're doing. Hey, 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 mic check, check. Now it's picking me up from pretty far away. I don't need it this loud, this far away. It's starting to get a little tinny. I'm going to turn down the preamp, the gain, something a little more manageable. This mic is not meant to pick up from a large distance. It really is meant to pick up pretty close. So now if I turn this up here at this distance, let's see what this is starting to sound like. I need it even higher. I might turn the gain down too much. Check, check, check. 1, 2. I'm at 50 dB. That's a lot. That's really high for some of these mics. Check, check, 1, 2. Obviously, the closer I am to the mic, the louder it's going to get, but I want them to be decently far away from it. I would say this is manageable for this type of mic. You really want more of a Podium style gooseneck microphone. It's a little more sensitive. These SF58s you can make work in these situations, but they're not ideal, and they're not going to be as good as the Podium. This is what it sounds like, and if I switch it, this is the other mic. So they're matching pretty good. They're at about the same distance away. Again, I'll switch again. This is one mic versus the other. I don't think people will really be able to tell the difference here. And yeah, so this is right now the dynamic, the Podium mic, and this is the other one. This is them on at the same time, and this is just the one. So that's the mics there. They're rung out. They're good to go. Again, put the gate, put the compressor on, and I'd have to set the threshold very, very low for this mic in this situation, though. I could still do a compressor, and it'd be the same as all the other ones, but the gate would have to be much, much lower. I might not even set a gate on a mic like this. So there's different mics here. We had wireless handheld mics. We had Podium mics, we had lav mics, we had tabletop mics, lots of different ways to ring them out in different situations in the room. A big thank you to David from Zar Property Group for giving us this space to do these tests and do these demos in, show you guys what it's really like in a real situation, in a room that might have a lot of different reflective surfaces. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. If you have questions, feel free to reach out in the comments. And with that, thanks for watching.